this tutorial, I'll show you how to make a cool laser in Eevee in Blender 3.1. So let's delete the camera and the light, and then copy our default cube a couple of times, like that. And then we also need to add a ground plane, and we can scale it a bit. Then we need one other cube, and then we need two empties. So this will be our object. This will be our laser. This will be our source. And this will be our target. And this will be our floor. Now go into side view, select your source, put your source up here, and put your target down here. Maybe something like this. Yes, that looks good. Now let's go into geometry nodes and select your laser and create a new node tree. You can get rid of the group input. So now we will do it step by step. We'll first do one single line, then we'll do multiple lines in parallel. Then we'll go for the fan out effect, and then we'll actually do the intersection. And then there's a couple of other tricks we can do. So first line, let's start with a curved line. And then we just need two object infos. Let's put it on a relative and then select the source and the target. Hook them up and do it like this. And here we already have our first line. Now let's extend this. So we can, for example, use a grid and then instance points, and we will instance the lines on the points of the grid, and then we'll show it. And here it is. So you have a 3x3 and also a 3x3, and we will simplify this a bit. So one, make it a little bit wider, and also have some more lines. Now we want to go for the fan out effect. So we basically need to find a method to select these points and collapse it onto the source. So we will use a vector math node for that and use the distance function. And then we'll use our source empty. And then we'll use a math node like this. It's like less than. Here we chose 4, so let's do 2. And this basically kind of already is half of it. There's one thing to do. We need to get the information of these points. And right now, if you have node wrangler enabled, you can do, I think, shift control and see that we don't really have direct information on the control points. They're still instanced. So you need to do realize instances like this. And now we have control points. And then we can use these control points with the position node. And now these should be selectable, and we'll use a set position node like this. Then we'll select the control points that are close to the source. And what will we do with it? We will actually set them on the location of the source. So that gives us this. And now we also want to do the intersection. So luckily for us, Blender has a really cool node. It's called Raycast. We set up a couple of things. So first we need to have an object like this. Make sure that it's relative as well. And now this is kind of tricky. So I think the best way to explain this is that the Raycast, you need to find the points here, the intersecting points, and then you want to follow that line, take this point and actually put that here, right? And then for this point you actually also want to put it here. So wherever you intersect an object, you want to fetch that point and set it at the intersection itself. So for this we need to have a redirection, and our redirection will be like this. So how can we get that? It's a bit more tricky because we also have this fanning out effect, right? It's not just there's just one direction between this source and the target, but it's actually we have to also work again with the control points. How will we do that? We will again get a vector math node and put it to subtract. And now we have to think a bit. So we will subtract. So we have, okay, if you go to side mode, we have our source vector and we have our target vector. One way to get this vector here is by subtracting your target vector from your subtracting your source vector from your target. Right, so if you subtract your source, you'll basically get this vector, which basically, yeah, well, which is this vector. So that is the direction that we want. So we will get our target here. No, we will subtract our source from our target. And like I said before, if we would use this, then we would actually use the location of this empty, which we cannot do because then you have just one direction for all the lines. But because we have a fanning out effect, you need to do it for every single one of these. So we can actually use the position information here. And the cool thing is as well that for these control points, it wouldn't doesn't matter because yeah, it would just be the source position subtracted from the these positions, which is always 0, right? And this will be our redirection. And then the final thing is here, we also need to define source again. So our source is our source. And now we can use another set position node and we can connect it like this, and then it should work. And what you can do now is you can actually move your target, and let's make this a little bit wider so it's you can see it better. So here we also have another issue. So when this is larger than your distance comparison, then you get a weird effect. You can fix that with just a simple value node. So let's put 9 in here. Like that. You can do it like this. So there you have it. Now your lines will be intersecting the object of choice. If you want to, for example, do it with more objects, you can go back to your laser, and then here you can select, for example, also the floor. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm not sure why. And then you can do a join geometry like this. Connect it up. Okay, this time it works. Now we need to make it glow. This is the final step. So let's create some room here. Actually, we want to give the curved lines a mesh, and that way we can shade it. So let's do a curve circle, and then also curve to mesh. To mesh like this. Put this in here. Put this here, and now every curve line has a mesh, but we can optimize this a little bit and then make this smaller. So now we have very thin lines, right? And now we just need to do a set material at the end. Let's make a new material. A new material, call it laser. Check into preview mode. Also enable bloom. And now we can use an emission shader and bump this up, and there you have it. A nice laser effect that intersects objects. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.